Lesson 8. Data Store Management. What is a data store? A data store is Roblox's way of saving data between game sessions. When a player leaves and rejoins the game, their data should persist. It allows saving of important information like player stats, inventory items, and game settings, and more. Important to note that data stores have limits. They cannot be saved too frequently, or else they may fail. There's also no automatic backup saving for when the server loses connection or such. So you must solve these problems your own or use open source modules such as Profile Store, which do this for you. How to create a data store. As you can see in this script, you first get the data store service right here. Then you create a data store with a name for it. This name is crucial for data store. This name determines the data storage. If you create a data storage and name it and then change it later on, all data for everyone will be reset to the default data. Do not worry though, so if you change the name, you can always change it back and it'll still have the that data storage for each individual player. So for example, if I were to load this game with this player data, it would load me new data since I haven't played yet, and then when I rejoin, it'll load that old data. But if I change the name afterwards to player data 2, it'll load new data different from the player data. So that's important to note. Next is loading the player's data. As you can see right here, we are first checking for when a player joins the game. We first create the leader stats folder and 3 stats and put them, or 2 stats and put them in that folder. If we check if the player has any data. If he does, then we create new data. If he doesn't, we create new data for that player. Otherwise, we save and set that player's data to his old data. Then, when the player is leaving, we're saving his data with a pcall function. And a pcall function allows it so that if an error occurs, it doesn't break the script or the code. It continues the function if it throws an error. You can use this pcall function for more than just data stores, but it's very important to use it for data stores. As you can see, we also use the pcall right up here. We check if there's a success in getting the player's data, and if there is, then obviously we make it set the data. Else, if it's not, we create new data. Then, finally, after the player added and player removing, we're also doing a spawn function in a while loop where we're saving each individual player's data every 15 seconds. As you can see, for each player, we're doing a pcall function for success or error message, and then we're saving the data and it prints save data every 15 seconds. If it doesn't succeed, then it fails. It warns us that it failed to save the data. So let's test now. When we join the game, it should create new data for us. So it should print this right here, this player added. It should print no data found for player name, setting default values. So if we play, as you can see, no default data found for Zenith. And right here we have our level and our coins. And as you can see, 15 seconds later, it saves the player data. Right here, if we click on it, we can see that it says print save data for player.name. And after we wait another 15 seconds, it'll save it again. You just wait. There you go, it saves it. Here inside the player, we have the leader stats folder. As you can see, this tab right here only appears if you create a folder named leader stats inside the player. Otherwise, it won't appear. It'll just be normal. So it depends on like what kind of game you want. If you want it to display the stats and stuff, then you have to do leader stats folder inside the player with the stats inside of there. Now, if we leave the game, you can see it right here. It says save data for player, and it saved the data. Now, let's actually go back in and change one of our values. So let's change one of our values so that it can save. So if I go into here, into the player's leader stats, it has to be on the server. If I change the coins to 10 and the level to 10, right? As you can see, it has level 10, 10 coins, 10. And if we leave, it's going to save the data. And now if we going back, it's going to load that data with the 10 levels and 10 coins. So as you can see, we have those 10 levels and those 10 coins after we join back. And that's a very basic data store. Now we're going to move on to a more advanced one. So we're going to tag this out. A more advanced one would be like this module. As you can see here, what it's doing is we're creating a table of default data for the players. So this is the default data. So we have level, XP, coins, strength, agility, health, stamina, mana, race, clan, and whether they have ability unlocked, right? We have functions like create player folder, which basically first checks to see if there's a folder named player data inside replicated storage. If there's not, then it creates a new one and names it player data. Then it creates the players folder inside of player data, and it names it the player's name. And then for every single value inside of default data, it's going to either see if it's a number, a string, or a boolean, and create it accordingly. So it'll create this one as a number, it'll create all of these as a number, create these two as a string, and it'll create this one as a boolean inside the player's data, which will be inside player data folder inside replicated storage. Then we have load data into folder, which we run after we create the player folder, and this basically just checks the player's data based off of every single value that we just added, all these that we added into the player's folder. It checks it and it changes its value accordingly if the player has any data to load. Otherwise, it just keeps the default data as the basic right here. This is the default data for when they load in. Then we have save data from folder, which basically just gets all the values in the player's folder, and then it'll save it, and then if it succeeds, it'll print data saved, otherwise it'll fail. And then we also have wipe player data, which we basically just call a function to remove their data. This is how you remove data, remove async, and then you pass in the player's user ID. If it's successful, we'll destroy the player folder, and it'll print wiped player data. Otherwise, it'll say it failed. Now, in here, we have two functions, player added and player removing. So in this player added, like I said, it creates the folder. Then it checks for the player's data. If it's successful, it loads the data. Otherwise, there's no existing data, and it'll say it'll give us the default data. Then on removing, it'll save the player's data and then destroy the player's folder. And then we also have another task.spawn function, which will auto save each player's data every 60 seconds. As you can see right here, we have it set to every 60 seconds. So now, if I load into the game, it's going to create a folder player data, and then inside that folder, it's going to create a folder with my player name and all these stats. So if I activate this and we join, So as you can see, it says no existing data found using default data for player. So right here we have player data, we have my data folder, and then we have the abilities. I accidentally created two datas for the player, so that's an accident, but that's no problem. So as you can see, these values, we have ability unlocked is false, agility is 10, clan is none, coins is 100, XP is 0, level is 1, health is 100, mana is 50, stamina is 100, race is human, and strength is 10. Similar to how this default data is. And it'll save every 60 seconds. So while it's waiting to save, we're going to change the data actually. So we're going to change our clan to Gojo. And we're going to change our race to Demon. And let's activate this ability unlocked. Let's make our level 10. And let's make our health 200. So now if I were to leave the game, it would already save this player's data, but I'm gonna wait for it to automatically save. As you can see right here, it said data successfully saved. That's from the autosave feature. So now if we leave, it'll say that again. Data successfully saved. So now if we load into the game, it's going to create those folders again. It's going to create the extra folder, obviously, because I did it wrong, but that's okay. And then inside those folders, it's going to create the data that we had previously. So as you can see, so right here it didn't load the data because it couldn't find the player's name in the first folder. So that's because we have two folders here. So let me fix that. So if I fix this right here, so this should work. So now if we load in, you can see it creates the one folder. Now if we change this stuff, we're going to change it again. So it didn't save it because it was looking for the stats inside the first folder, but it just got another folder instead. So now we're going to change the stats. I'm going to do Gojo again. I'm going to do level 10, health 200, and then race Demon. Now if we leave, it saves successfully. If we go back in, just wait a moment. As you can see, we have the ability unlocked. We have the Gojo clan, level 10, 200 health, and race is Demon. So, yep, that's how you make data stores and save data for players with either modules or a regular script. I recommend using these modules so that you can make tables of data. You could also make more tables, like you could do local default inventory equals nothing, right? Because you want nothing in their inventory, unless you want something in their inventory like a starter sword. And you would basically just give it like like a sword, or whatever you want it to have, whatever. And then you could do other things like for talents, you do local default talents equals nothing. You could do local default skills, right? And basically all you would have to do for this is inside this create player data folder is you would make more of these keys. So you would do another local folder, or like local skills folder equals instance.new folder, and you put the skills folder parent to be the regular folder, so it'll be like inside with these stats, right, basically. So it'll look like this, skills, right, because we'll name it like skill folder dot name equal skills. And then basically you could do for key value in pairs, dot or no, you would just do default skills, right? And you would basically just do what you did right here and then put it into the skills folder. But this would actually create nothing because there's no default skills. So you would really just keep this like, if you have no default skills, and you just keep this as nothing, and then if the player gets skills later on, you would add that into here. You would basically just add that into this load data folder, and it'll add those skills into there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can also even print the player's data, which I'll show you. So let me undo everything real quick. Okay, now when we're loading the player's data, you can actually print it to see the player's data. So if I print data, right, which would get the data from this data store right here, where it checks and returns the player's data, and then if it's successful, it sends that data into here with the player. So if we print data, you'll see it'll print the table of stats. It'll be a table of stats. Right here, here's our table with our data. There you go. That's how you print the player's data. And that's it for this lesson. Now it's time for an activity.